All righty. Well, we're so glad to have everyone joining us tonight. Um, this is a program we've kind of taken in different directions each year, but our Compost Cafe, one of two virtual events that our Illinois Coalition, Food Scrap and Composting Coalition, has hosted for the last 3 years now. And you'll see in the little word cloud, we have the word welcome in many languages, including Portuguese, because one of our speakers tonight is from Brazil. I think you're really going to enjoy um, all the folks we have that will be sharing their stories tonight. Next slide, please. This is our cafe team. Um, myself, I am the chair for the Illinois ICAW events via the coalition. I'm on the IFSCC board of directors. I work for an environmental agency in Northern Illinois. I'm the programs and education director there, and I'm also try to be as active as I can with our local Go Green group. Teresa Johnston is one of our key ICAW committee members. She is on our cafe team that helped put this presentation tonight here together. She's the principal environmental scientist at MWRD. Um, Jenny Futterman is also on the ICAW committee, part of this ICAW cafe team. And she's an environmental leader in her community and one of the leaders for Go Green Highland Park. Seema Keshav is on the ICAW committee. She's also on this smaller cafe team to help put this presentation again together tonight. She's an environmental leader in her community and beyond, and involved in a number of environmental coalitions. And she is the founder of Go Green Vernon Hills in Lincolnshire. So a big thank you to our team for helping to put this all together. So the inspiration for this year was to kind of serve up, when we talk about compost, we use a lot of culinary terms. You might think about heating up, heating things up, stirring, mixing, adding a little water or liquid to the mix. So a buffet or a smorgasbord is also another culinary term. And we thought being able to share stories and share resources, ideas, and inspiration, kind of provide little roadmaps, hopefully for any community who is either yet to begin and wants to begin implementing composting initiatives in their community or wants to expand. So we'll talk a little bit about this year's theme. We'll share some stories from LA. We'll share some stories from Brazil, and then back here in Illinois from Grayslake, Illinois. Again, I think so many different communities, and it might be a municipality, it might be a faith community, it might be a school community, but have different resources and different things that they can utilize. And so maybe they wouldn't be offered to offer this particular thing or a curbside program, but maybe there's some other activities and initiatives and projects that they can implement. So I hope this will provide a lot of inspiration for any of you wanting to either get started, or grow your efforts. Next slide, thank you. And I'd like to introduce our executive director from the Illinois Coalition, the Food Scrap and Composting Coalition, Benjamin Crumstock. He is also the president of Composting Partners. And Benjamin, if you could tell us a little bit about the coalition, and you have some other great news to share as well.
Well, so thank you. My privilege to welcome you folks on behalf of the staff and the board of the IFSCC. Thank you so much to the whole ICAW team and to the cafe crew in particular tonight. Just want to hope you take advantage of all the opportunities, and we're getting deeper into the week, so there are fewer left, but enjoy the whole week. So if you're unfamiliar with the IFSCC, please visit the website. It's illinoiscomposts.org. Our mission is comprehensive, addressing all circularity touch points, including organic diversion from landfills, transportation of those materials, responsible processing of the organics, and ultimately getting the manufactured compost into Illinois soils. Our members represent the full spectrum of the organics management and compost use communities, including residents and advocates, policymakers, haulers, organic processors, compost sellers, and operations and sites who benefit from the incorporation of compost into their soils. In very exciting news and progression, the IFSCC has now become an independent 501c3. I wanted to invite you to join the IFSCC if you're not already a member. We are running a 50% discount to new members over the course of May, over the celebration of ICAW. The link on our website, when you go to the membership page, will take you to the 50% rate. If you are a returning member, welcome back. Send me an email and I will send you the correct link for the renewal if you're not eligible for the promotional pricing. And my email address is executive director@illinoiscomposts.org. It's Illinois Compost with the S. If you have any questions about the IFSCC, please feel free to touch base with me and I'll be happy to engage. Do you want to say thank you to our sustaining members? The funding is important, and as we transition to boosting our mission and really starting to get more compost into the ground, and making space for all the additional food organics that folks want to divert, it's really important that we have these types of organizations and companies supporting us. One that's missing is Quirk's Consulting with a renewal that didn't make it there. But thanks to everybody, and whether you're here at the sustaining member level or as an individual or an organization, thank you so much.
Thank you, Benjamin. So just a real quick overview. Some of you here may be familiar with International Compost Awareness Week, but I know there are others too who this is something new. ICAW, as we refer to it, is the largest and most comprehensive education initiative in the compost industry, and it's always celebrated during the first full week in May. Really, it's to bring about awareness on why we all should be composting organics and utilizing compost. The program, which is from the Compost Research and Education Foundation, kind of is the umbrella for this. They are affiliated with the U.S. Composting Council. There are poster contests every year. People from all over the world enter, artists, video contests, and other activities, programs, and events. Throughout the week of ICAW, we have all types of folks. It's a really wonderful collaborative week with all sorts of organizations and individuals coming together. Next slide, please. And just a quick note, if any of you do happen to live here in Illinois, we do have, in addition to our 2 virtual events that we do each year, we also have live events for all ages throughout the whole state. This year we have adventures in 13 counties in Illinois, everything from farm festivals to native plant sales to garden tours to compost giveaways, vineyard tours. And at a number of these, there'll be a wonderful array of resources and goodies, some giveaways and drawings. We'll actually have a drawing tonight. And so I really encourage you to visit the IFSCC website for a full listing of all of the registered adventures throughout the state. Next slide, please. And I'm going to hand it over to one of our Café team, Teresa, who's going to tell you a little bit about this year's theme and also some of the reasons and that we should be composting and the many benefits.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining. First of all, I want to apologize. I have some chimney swifts living in my chimney and they just started twittering. So if you hear background noise, I'm sorry for that. I want to start by talking about this year's theme and its relationship to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Last year, our ICAW team came up with about 10 of the 17 goals that composting can help contribute to. And it turned out this year, the ICREF group selected Goal 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, as the basis for our theme this year, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities, Make Cities and Human Settlements Inclusive, Safe, Resilient, and Sustainable. And before we move on, I just want to touch on what sustainable means. In 1987, the United Nations came up with a definition for it, which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we need to keep that in mind as we think about how composting contributes to sustainable communities, while not composting can contribute to unsustainable communities. Next slide, please. Each of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are goals for global development to 2030, we want to try to achieve all 17 of these goals, and they each are broken down into different targets. And within sustainable cities and communities, there are several targets that composting really applies to, and the most relevant are targets 11.3, 11.6, and 11.7, which include inclusive and sustainable urbanization and sustainable human settlement planning, which one of those is the ratio of land consumption rate to population growth rate. If we are turning a lot of our land into landfills and utilizing the land to just manage our waste, we have a larger ratio of land consumption to population growth rate, rather than if we are composting and renewing those products, all those organics, into reusable resources. And so we would be reducing our land consumption if we're composting. Reducing the adverse environmental impact of our cities, air quality, municipal, and other waste management. The name is right there, waste management, right? So if we're not managing our solid waste properly, we are actually contributing to many different forms of pollution, including air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution through things like leaching. And more specifically, the proportion of municipal solid waste collected and managed in controlled facilities is one of those sub-targets. And where are we putting these organics? If we're putting them into these controlled facilities where they're leaching and creating greenhouse gases, we're not creating a sustainable function. And then providing universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces. If we can utilize that compost, so we're talking about both ends, the creation of compost as well as the utilization of compost. If we're utilizing it to create green spaces, especially in land that was formerly degraded, we're able to increase the amount of green space for our communities and make it more inclusive and accessible, especially in areas that may have been degraded and suffering environmental injustice. If they can now have green space because of that compost, we're seeing movement toward those sustainable goals. Next, please. So what is the current problem? What's unsustainable? According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, 1/3 of all food around the world is wasted. So think about that. That's a ton of food not getting to where it needs to be and consumed by the people who need it. Instead, it's becoming a problem and a waste product rather than helping a solution for sustainability. Next, please. So what is the problem with all this food waste in addition to it not getting to the people who need it? Well, food waste causes methane, which is about 85 times as potent as carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. And so in addition to food insecurity, which is not sustainable itself, we're also seeing this contribute to other problems such as climate change, which further exacerbates a lot of the other problems that communities facing environmental injustice or other sustainability issues are facing. And some other points that can be harmed with wasting food and putting it into landfills are biodiversity loss and pollution. So we're seeing leaching from those landfills, we're seeing that the greenhouse gas emissions, and we're seeing those landfills take up space that could otherwise be used as habitat. Next, please. So a few more facts about this. About 30 to 40% of all food produced in the United States goes uneaten, and a lot of it is household waste. It's not at the factories. There is some at the manufacturing factories that's going to waste, but more than half is coming from our own homes. And so we need to think about what we're consuming, what we're purchasing that's not consumed, and then what we're doing with it when we don't consume that. A lot of this may also be coming from grocery stores and restaurants, which is the second highest amount where waste is coming from. About 40% of the entire US food supply is discarded, which is equaling 120 billion pounds or 325 pounds of waste per person. Okay, so we're talking tons and tons of food waste here. And when we are wasting that food, we are now wasting all of the resources that went into making that food. So if you think about the water footprint, the carbon footprint, all the energy that was used in production of that food, that's now been wasted. And those factors are also contributing to issues of sustainability, such as climate change and misuse of resources. And so we want to try to utilize compost. Next, please. Next. Sorry. So what does an unsustainable system look like? So we typically have these urban ecosystems that have energy coming in, food coming in, clean water coming in. You think about a city, they often are not producing these things on their own. They have to import all of this from more rural areas or internationally, or there are places in the world that are bringing fresh water in from hundreds to thousands of miles away. And if all of these things are getting wasted or they're getting consumed but then discarded at the end, that's not a sustainable system. We see coming out of that system pollution and greenhouse gases, solid waste, and then contaminated water and potentially flooding because of all those impervious surfaces in urban areas. Next. But if we change the paradigm and flip it to a circular system, we can make it much more sustainable. So how does composting lead to that sustainable system? We're taking all of those resources and finding ways to renew them, whether that's through recycling nutrients that are captured in those organic materials, renewing soil health through adding more texture, moisture holding capacity, etc., increasing water infiltration and filtering out pollutants, reducing greenhouse gases and leaching. And then that's also creating local resiliency, because you can plant your own crops, your own little victory gardens into compost, and it's helping you produce your own food. One thing I wanted to point out is the little circle of mushrooms comes from the poster contest winner this year, their poster for the whole ICAW event. And I just love that they included a circle. I don't know if that was intentional, but to me, that was symbolic of the cyclical nature of composting. And so I wanted to include that. Next. So the good news is that composting can be done from any scale, from backyard bins to small rural communities to mega cities. And we have many different resources to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Merlin so she can introduce our next speaker, because we have so many great stories that we can learn from and pick from to learn more about composting in our communities. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. I loved her wonderful graphics too there, her animation. Next slide, please. So our first speaker tonight, we're so thrilled to have so many wonderful folks with us this evening. Like to introduce Michael Martinez. He is the founder and executive director of LA Compost. He is also the author of a newer book that came out last year called Composting for Community, How Appropriate, for this year's ICAW theme. And the book is a book for children, and we will be having a drawing tonight for a copy of his book. Has some wonderful slides and some great stories to share with you. So Michael, we're so pleased to have you with us, and look forward to hearing more about all the good work you're doing in LA.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor to share some space with you all from a different part of the country, and also to be encouraged by the incredible work that's happening holistically and collectively across our country from all scales. So I appreciate kind of the introduction, very much love the in-depth overview of all the ways in which we can compost. And I'm personally really excited about talking for the next few minutes the community scale and how that's grown over time in a very populated city and geographical area like Los Angeles. Next slide, please. So community composting is a little bit different than backyard composting, a little bit different than municipal composting. LA Compost, we've been around for 12 years, and we focus on that first word as much as the second. We love compost. We'll preach the gospel of compost. We dive into soil science and microscopy work, but we equally appreciate the community and the individuals that make Los Angeles such an incredible city. Almost 10 million of us call this place home, and I think we have an incredible opportunity to mimic this hyphal mycorrhizal network below the ground, above the ground via these human network type work. So I think community compost is not just cute, it's not just a hobby, it's very much a legitimate piece of the puzzle that is going to be part of our collective solution. So next slide, please. This is a map of LA County. We are pretty much defined by our freeways. We use the before we name a freeway or highway. It's just part of our vocabulary. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley next to one of the largest landfills in the country at the time. It was called the Puente Hills landfill. It was taking a third of LA County's trash. And as some of the presenters mentioned earlier, there's no such thing as a way. Things don't just disappear. Our trash oftentimes impacts certain communities who have to bear the burden and the weight of our refusal to create more localized regenerative systems. So I like to show this map for a variety of reasons to show that Los Angeles County is about a quarter of California's population. There's a lot of people in a small area. We're defined and divided by freeways, but it gives me a glimpse too of the powerful nature of this human network that we're trying to establish as community composters. How are we starting to compost in schools, churches, museums, community gardens, parks, urban farms, anywhere where people naturally do life and come together? We are able to tell that full story of food. Food naturally brings people together. The conversation of food shouldn't stop of where was this food grown, how was it labeled, etc. We should continue the conversation of the after table experience and really talk about these closed loop systems we're trying to create. Next slide. Early on, we worked with the city of Los Angeles, and we worked with their GIS team to map every community garden, every library green space, every nursery, every kind of small public greenway to showcase the potential of community compost growth over a series of years. This map was created in 2017, so it's a bit dated, a little over 8 years. But over the past few years, we've supported over 60 locations, really educating, equipping, and empowering different groups to really include composting as part of their food growing solutions, food growing offerings, or their food recovery offerings. And we really wanted to just showcase from a visual standpoint the many ways in which we can keep things local, the many ways in which we can reimagine infrastructure already here in our city. The city of Los Angeles map is very weird and very odd, but that skinny line you see is the port of Los Angeles being connected to the city. So the county is massive, the city map is unique, but we've been really innovative to be able to kind of participate and implement different systems throughout. Next slide, please. So many of us know the wonderful folks at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. We've seen different EPA maps, we've seen different USDA maps, but I think many of us can agree that there's a more preferred way of looking and valuing food and more of a least preferred way of seeing food. As much as I will preach the gospel of compost, I am a firm believer in getting food to people who can still eat it. At least here in Los Angeles, 1 in 4 people don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Yet our produce hub in downtown is a massive produce dream that unfortunately weighs half the product that doesn't get sold. So as much as I love home composting, community composting, talking about it, I'm a firm believer in talking about food as in a holistic approach And a lot of our laws in California that we feel are innovative, like SB 1383, include food recovery mandates that don't get talked about enough. So I think when we talk about compost, let's consider the full story of food. Let's consider the communities that are impacted and the communities that can benefit not from just food growing in healthy soil, but ready to eat food that is nutrient rich for their families as well. Next slide. Over the years, we've kind of created these little nodules of hub offerings throughout the county, really reimagining how we look at public spaces. Obviously, real estate in Los Angeles comes at a premium, so we can't just start buying vacant lots or taking over leased parking lots. But how do we start to look at that GIS map from 8 years ago and start to kind of build the social and physical infrastructure to allow for composting and the full story of food to be told? And the way in which we did that is we started hiring from within the communities. What better individual to navigate the changes and development of a zip code than someone who's called that place home forever, or someone who's lived in that place for decades. I think what makes LA unique and beautiful is not a singular Walk of Fame or Griffith Observatory or anything of that nature. It's the communities, it's the 88 zip codes that make up this beautiful city. And for us, how do we elevate and shine light on the goodness that's already taking place in those zip codes? We elevate strong community advocates and leaders. And we also, like compost, just add a little bit of life and goodness to the beauty that's already taking place there. Next slide. Early on, this was an idea. I used to be a former 5th grade reading and writing teacher. I would often use analogies in my classroom for my students to kind of comprehend the subject matter. And one time I pulled out a seed and I mentioned to my students, this seed is like you. It requires compassion, care, love, nutrients, sunlight, all the things that seed needs to grow. And seeds don't just grow for their own growth, they grow for the community around them and the shade it provides and the fruit it provides and the structure it provides. And I thought my students were connecting with me and really understanding, to the point in which one student raises his hand and says, so Mr. Martinez, how do Cheetos grow? And it was a moment of pause that I wanted to make a teachable moment, and I responded, where do carrots come from? And the student said, Publix, the local grocery store in South Florida at the time. I said, well, where does Publix get them from? And they said, the big truck. And I said, and where do the big truck get the carrots from? And there was a moment of pause, and that curiosity turned to frustration. And the student said, aren't you supposed to teach us how to read? And it was at that point in time I realized my students' reality was a 4-block radius. And food and systems and ecosystems and biodiversity, ecological like habitats, that was not part of their lived experience. But what was around them was a place to build gardens, a place to plant trees, a place to talk about it, and for them to construct their own knowledge. So the seeds of LA Compost kind of germinated from that. And I really wanted to take that show on the road. And like many composters, we started biking. We literally just started picking up food scraps from coffee shops, from juice bars, from taco shops in LA. Any friend or family of mine that had a bike, I gave them a bike trailer and a t-shirt, and they were part of the LA Compost team. The compost we generated, we gave away for free at farmers markets. The money we made from donations, we built school gardens. And it was this really cool idea of just showing that there's no such thing as waste. We can transform what we considered waste into a resource that can be reinvested in our communities. And it can be a movement that has duplicative implications of like positive impact. So next slide. Over time, we started to build systems. We had these drop-off community hubs where, like someone dropping off a library book or a postcard at the mail office, they could drop off their food scraps. We have large windrows where people are turning them with really good music and really good food to actually move a mountain in 2 hours and see the steam and ask the questions and be curious. Next slide. We started to work in various parts of the city with all types of communities, and we had many people show up, and many people still do show up 7 days out of the week. You wouldn't think that folks in Los Angeles would be excited to work around food scraps, but it's incredible to see the critical mass of individuals that we're getting to show up to our hubs. Not so much to feel good about diverting food scraps from landfill. Most of the times people just want community. People want to feel that they're a part of something bigger than themselves. Obviously, we just faced one of the biggest natural disasters here in Los Angeles with the fires here in early January. People want to be able to relate to see how folks are recovering, or how are you like what bioremediation efforts are you looking into? Have you tested your soil XYZ? So, and these spaces provide that. Next slide. Back in 2019, the city started to take us serious. They wrote us in their Green New Deal. A lot of their plans were to establish food scrap drop-offs at farmers markets, which is what we were doing at the time. They wanted a community or regional master plan, and they were kind of taking our lead. And although this was a celebratory doc, it didn't mean much. Next slide. So we wanted to take a new deal and actually put it into implementation. So we established a motion at council called Regenerate LA, and it allowed for composting to take place in city and county parks, as well as food scrap drop-off locations to take place at various farmers markets. I simply show this slide because anytime I'm listed on the city's website, it's like, oh, we made it. Like, they believe in it, they're not trying to shut it down, and they're a firm believer and partner. Next slide. Our farmers market program started off with Public Works saying, try it. You see New York doing it, you see DC doing it. How are you going to get it off the ground? We got a small grant from Neighborhood Council. And since then, we've grown it to 17 markets, soon to be 25. People literally freeze their food scraps throughout the week as they shop at the farmers market for their next week's batch of vegetables and fruits. They drop off the scraps that they didn't consume, and we compost it within a 5-mile radius of point of collection. Sometimes people are dropping off, then they volunteer behind the table, then they volunteer turning the pile, and pretty soon many of our volunteers have turned into staff as well. Next slide. I am just like a firm believer in decentralized systems that look and represent the communities in which they support. It's not a universal cookie cut model. We want to co-create these solutions alongside individuals, alongside community members. And we've just been really proud of being able to do that, from our community hubs, our park hubs, our farmers market drop-offs, to our educational offerings. Next slide. Our park hubs is a way to reinvent how we look at where we process in the city and county of Los Angeles. There's over 80,000 acres of parkland in our city. And instead of just thinking of parks as golf courses, baseball fields, swing sets, and playgrounds, how do we look at them as resource-rich distribution centers for compost and mulch and seeds and seedlings and native plants and fruit trees, to really support not only the post-fire communities, but also communities who've always wanted to enhance their green space, but have never had the education or resources to carry that out. As a former educator, I'm a firm believer that education is only as strong as the ability to put what was learned into practice. So we don't want to just tell folks about compost. We want them to make mistakes alongside us. We want them to be curious and learn by doing. And we do that by showing up where they live. Next slide. We educate, and we are students just as much as we consider ourselves teachers. We go up and we will talk Compost 101, vermicompost, and we will have microscopes and look at life within the soil. And it's a great opportunity to show that anything that is alive deserves protection, and the soil very much is alive. And just like our air and our water is a system that deserves acknowledgement, care, and a level of understanding of how sacred of a resource it is. Next slide. We build a ton of infrastructure and resources for community. Bottom left is a worm bench for folks that were living in public housing, where a lot of them didn't have green space, but wanted a compost, also wanted a space to talk and have lunch. And we created worm benches, do a ton of big critical turns with corporate groups, letting them get excited as much as they get excited about cleaning the beach or planting a tree. We want them to get excited about composting as well. Next slide. We can keep going with the slides. I'm wrapping up my time. One thing that we're launching is this Magic Soil Bus, a field trip on wheels. How do we get school children of all ages to be excited about soil? We bring a field trip to them when their budget doesn't allow for them to come to us. So this is launching in August. It's going to have a critter corner, microscopy sessions, a library, all the things to get kids excited. And we're hoping to have a fleet of these in the coming months. Next slide. Yeah, compost is love. We are compost. I think compost is inclusive. It's inviting. It's a reflection of our communities. And I think, at least from the community composting movement, it's growing rapidly. And I am incredibly thrilled, excited, and honored to just play a small part of it. So I want to thank you all again for your time. I think the last slide has my info if you would like to email me. Unfortunately, I can't stay for questions, but that is my email. If you'd like to reach out, I'd be more than happy to respond to those. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Michael. It was so inspiring. We're so happy to have you with us, and keep up the great work. We'll look forward to following you and keeping up with all you're doing there. Our next speaker tonight, also another exciting stories from Brazil. Felipe Pedrazi, he is the president of Brazilian Composting Association. We've had so many great conversations already, and he's just as passionate as so many of us I know who are here tonight about this. So please take it away, Felipe, and we look forward to hearing the good work that you're doing there in Sao Paulo and beyond.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm sorry for my English. I will do my best here to you understand me. So I am Felipe. I am composting since 2009. And today I'm going to tell you about the Brazilian Composting Association, a little bit of our story, and to grow more companies, to grow more initiatives, to grow more people that are aware to the composting and to the waste, the organic waste recycling. Please, next, please. Okay, next, please. So we are a Brazilian organization, and we gather professionals, waste collectors, haulers, initiatives, researchers, companies, entrepreneurs dedicated to make composting nationwide. As United States, we are a very big country, and we have people from maybe 60% of Brazilian states. We were founded in 2022, but we are working to gather these people since 2020, and it's sounds like weird, but we started to make the movement online during COVID 2019, because we were not able to meet everybody. So we started to gathering people on online meetings and online happy hours to bring people and make them aware and make them together more close to the problem. And next, please. Our work is grounded in strengthening the composting market. It's important we are very focused on working to the waste, organic waste recycling, and also the compost use in public and private places. We are collaborating with public policy initiatives. We are making new laws in Brazil, and we are fostering public engagement with like this week, or we are almost every week together, and we are trying to make people close to us. Next, please. So we have different scales. We have 6 big companies and local communities making composting, local or it's not so common, but some towns or some cities are already awakening for the compost business and the compost. It's very important to Brazil, because as the mainstream of the waste market, it's landfilling or dumping. So we are trying to make it different. Next, please. So we We are trying to make people doing the right compost, doing the best product, and using the right process. Next, please. So running on the legal destination, we have like a DEP that's called CETESB in São Paulo, where I live, and we have IBAMA, that's like EPA in United States. Next, please. So as the mainstream is landfilling, and landfilling is legalized, it's regular and permitted, but we are trying to make people aware that this is a research graveyard and a lot of GHG emissions, as Teresa has already told us. We should also work biodigestion, but it's very expensive, and most are not aware that digestate needs to be composted. Next, please. So why composting? Because in 100 days, we have a good product and we deal with many problems. Next, please. In 100 days, we have the cheapest solution. We have the quicker solution. It's very efficient to deal with the waste. If we take off the organic fraction of the waste, we are also improving the recycling rates. So it's a system that is working. We can produce soils. We use chemicals in our lands, reduces floods in the cities. We have a better yield, and it's very scalable. Next, please. One of the big issues is the regulations and how can we keep the composting recorded. So we have developed a Brazilian technology to keep the temperature recorded, to keep the humidity recorded, to keep the gases, anaerobic gases recorded. It's called Smart Compost, and it's doing great here in Brazil. Next, please. So we have 10 roadmap goals here. The first one is improve composting performance, because we are aware that composting must be done in the right way, and we must improve regenerative agriculture, and compost is the way to do that. Next, please. We have to distinguish the different scales, because in Brazil, everything is compost, since a community compost site, even a large compost site, they must have the same permit. So we have to deal with that, and we are working with the government to scale it and make different kinds of requirements to each scale. Next, please. Also, we don't have a Brazilian regulation to hire the people who works with composting. So we are also working to the professional regulation. I don't know if it's the correct word in English, but it's description that we can hire people here in Brazil. Next, please. We have to ensure the implementation of tree fraction. Here in Brazil, almost of every politician tells about incineration and how it's done in Japan. So they are not, they just tell us that incineration is good, but they don't tell us that Japan, to incinerate their trash, uses 44 fractions of waste collection. And in Brazil, we just have one, that big and black bag. So we are trying to make it different. We do have a regulation, but we have to enforce it. Next, please. We are working also to establish funding mechanisms to composting sites and organic recycling initiatives, because the government here in Brazil pays to new landfills or different or these waste compactors, these truck compactors. The Brazilian state allows some funding to do that, but not for compost sites. So we are working to make better funding for the composters. Next, please. We are here addressing the potential for carbon credit generation in compost sites and apply, and how does these carbon credits could be also marginal money to the compost sites, and also how the farmers that uses compost, good compost, how can they get also the carbon credits instead of using when they change to use chemical fertilizers. Next, please. We are working to ensure laws that make sense for humanity. So we have Planaro. It's we have a big document made by the environmental ministry. It's like our EPA or something like the people who works to the environment here. And Planaro is a plan that that's aiming to how the towns and cities must address the problems with organic waste. And one thing that we almost made it is to every yard waste until 2030, every city in Brazil must have a system to compost their yard waste. So this is a good framework in Brazil, because we need a lot of carbon, and because we have a lot of organic waste, so we need a lot of carbon to make the process. I know I am almost on time, but I am just ending.
Take your time, Felipe.
Okay. We are in Brazil. To sell compost, you must have like a register for the product, and the register is not so good. It's not like STA with maturity, with respirometry, and with all these fractions of nitrogen. It's just a simple. The process is bureaucratic, but the analysis are too simple. And Brazil has a law that is enforcing, or they are improving the use of biological insults to the agriculture. And we are trying to move the compost to this category, bio insults, the bio products. And because the actual law says that we are producing and not a bio product, and we are trying to move it to this new legislation that is just 6 months or 8 months it has published. Next, please. We are trying to work with like EPR to the big waste food generators. So we are trying to address the money from the large industries to build a framework to the compost facilities or compost communities, or everything related to compost sites or compost projects. Next, please. And we are working to promote and encourage the use of compost in public infrastructure and private developments. So here we do have, it's important to say that in Brazil, we are in a tropical region. And as we are in a tropical region, the organic matter in our soils is very degraded. We have less than 0.5% in the agricultural soils. And the organic matter and the compost use is a big key to have better yield and have better, it's a problem containment using the compost in public works and public spaces. Next, please. So I end here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this time. If you want to contact us, I will write the websites here, and I will be here to further questions. And if I am not well understood, please tell me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Felipe. And, you know, when Felipe and I were talking earlier, and, you know, we're talking about, obviously it's Compost Awareness Week, but with that comes conversations, as you've already heard tonight from Michael earlier and from Teresa. And we're talking about, you know, wasted food and the reduction of it, the diversion of it. We're talking about feeding people hunger. We're talking about soil health. We're talking about building climate resilience. And this work is so important to all of our futures. And one of the things Felipe and I had talked about was that when we do programs like this, when we gather together to talk about these things, it's such a collaborative nature, and we're really all in this together. It's a global it's a global initiative, and it's wonderful to be able to come together and know that we are in this together, and working together towards that sustainable world. So, and for the next visit and stories, I had been thinking about a town in northern Illinois that I've had the pleasure to work with a number of organizations and individuals there. And one of the things that just popped up for me one day was how many different organizations, the village itself, some of the schools and other things were happening in this community that could serve as a resource for other communities. Again, you may be able to have the resources to do this, but if you want to grow, maybe you could consider one of these. So we're going to have 4 of us tonight share some of those initiatives, projects, and programs, inspiration, hopefully a little roadmap for you, if you will, to develop more projects, programs, and initiatives for your own community. And we're going to start with, I'd like to introduce, next slide, please. Thank you. Dave Nye. He is the sustainability coordinator for the village of Grayslake, Illinois. And he's going to be kicking off some of the stories from Grayslake for us tonight. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Merlan. Boy, that's a tough act to follow, talking about the scale of things like the you know, LA County and the whole country of Brazil, and now we're going to kind of scale it down to a village of 21,000 people down to little Grayslake and some of the things that we've been doing. But Grayslake is kind of unique, and Lake County in general is kind of unique, but Grayslake in Lake County has kind of risen up as a leader in sustainability. Next slide, please. So I'm the sustainability coordinator. So in addition to composting, there's a whole bunch of other sustainability programs that we're doing. But I mean, here's just some examples of some of the composting related things that we're working on. The village board and the mayor and past mayor and village manager have all been very active and very supportive of environmentally friendly programs since the 70s. We've adopted the Greenest Region Compact in 2008, and then the Compact 2 in 2016, and the Chicago Climate Action Plan, Chicago Region Climate Action Plan in 2021. Our village sustainability plan was formulated in 2017 that will be due to be redone again in 2027. It's a 10-year plan. And that highlights, set out a bunch of goals that we've actually met quite a few of them. And composting is on that sustainability plan and will continue into the future. I did not know this, but Grayslake was a founding member of the Solid Waste Agency in Lake County. Merlan, I'm not sure if you added that to the slide or if the staff at Grayslake did that, but that's good to know. And we are a participant in the 60% recycling task force. So next slide, please. Our residential curbside composting program started in 2019, and the pickup company, Waste Management, told us that they wanted 175 participants in order to greenlight the program. So the village committed to that. At the very beginning of the program, we only had 139 signups, and so the village board authorized the payment to fill that gap, so the hauler would not be shorted up to that 175 participants, and then the program reached that and beyond. It took about 6 months to get to 175. So now we're at 254 participants, which shows an 82% growth since it began in 2019. So this allows the homeowner to collect food scraps at home and then and yard waste in compostable containers. And it's a third cart that goes out to the curb in addition to the recycling and regular trash. People and I've talked to a lot of residents who participate in that, and then others. We have a recognition program for sustainable homes, and one of the criteria is that they compost. And the people that don't participate in the curbside program, most of them are doing their own composting. So I'm happy either way, whatever they're doing, as long as that stays out of the collection stream is great. Grayslake was part of a 2021 grant from USDA and awarded to Swalco, and we participated in that to increase composting in the county. It focused on developing new composting educational programs and materials, which we still use today. And so because we had already been doing the curbside composting, were able to give feedback into that program to Swalco. And because of our participation and the success of the program, Swalco was able to pursue some additional grant funding to work with other towns in Lake County. Next slide. We're also working on commercial composting. There's a lot of businesses in the village that that have food waste, and so we've been pushing in order to get some of them to participate also in the curbside pickup for composting. I lost my place here. We had we partner with a company called Brightbeat, a nonprofit, as a consultant, and they help us develop some marketing materials and analytical tools for businesses to determine if composting makes sense for their businesses. Annually, we put out a letter signed by the mayor that goes to all the likely businesses in town that could compost, along with all the materials that Brightbeat and others have developed. And then I follow up with that with some of the what I think would be the low-hanging fruit, the really likely candidates that would most likely participate in the program, and I give them an in-person visit and then also bring them materials again. Our school district, the elementary district, District 46, every school in the district now fully implements back of the house and front of the house composting, food scrap composting. That's a relatively new phenomenon that they've all been participating, and that's been due to a lot of help from staff and volunteers and Brightbeat and Swalco. And the high school district, District 127, is now doing back of the house, and we're hoping they can move that to encompass all of their food scrap waste. Next slide, please. Village has a community garden. It's just a little over a half acre. It's like 0.56 acres since 2005. We're currently at 42 plots, 20 by 20 plots. And community members can sign up for the program. There's not enough space for everybody who wants to participate. We're hoping to develop further. Space was kind of limited where it is right now, but we're looking to expand. And our public works department assists with that management, with the water tank and tilling of the plots. And I think Marlene had a little more to say on the garden and some of the other programs that we're doing.
Thanks so much, Dave. Just wanted to add too, there were, I think, was it 3 or 4 restaurants in Grayslake too practicing composting as well, in addition to the schools.
Yes, we had that part of that outreach to the commercial composting. We had some participation in that. And there are some, in fact, some of the coffee shops are doing their own, have somebody come and pick up their own composting. So they're not doing the curbside, but like I said, I don't care if just so it's not going into the landfill, as long as somebody's using it.
Right. Thank you. Next slide, Seema. So now I would like to introduce someone who I have the pleasure of seeing on a regular basis and working with. We're very glad to have Alex Landberg here tonight. He is the horticulture coordinator for University of Illinois Extension, Lake County. Their office is also in Grayslake. So all of these just multiple organizations and happenings throughout the village, you know, related to compost and some of the other things we've been talking about tonight. So please take it away, Alex.
Excellent. Thanks, Merlan, and thanks for having me. And as Merlan said, yes, we have the or I have the pleasure of getting to work with Merlan on a very regular basis. One of the things that we're going to talk about first is the Garden Learning Series. But before I jump into that, I just want to say that I oversee the Master Gardener and soon-to-be Master Naturals programs. I think we have a few Master Gardeners even on the call with us tonight, so that's fantastic. The Master Gardener program offers a number of services throughout the county, but tonight we're going to be talking about composting specifically, and we're going to kick off by talking about something that we developed in partnership with Swalco and Merlan, as well as the Lake County Forest Preserves. We call this the Garden Learning Series, and this is a monthly webinar series that's hosted again by the University of Illinois Extension Master Gardeners, and then educators from the Forest Preserves, and then Merlan represents Swalco. So usually once or twice a year, we will have a webinar where the topic is related to composting. We actually, last month, Merlan presented, and this was, kind of a general presentation on compost, but it was also kind of leading up to ICAW and all of the events that were going to be happening locally, but also internationally. So it was a great educational opportunity for folks to really understand all of the great things taking place locally around composting and compost education. Vermicomposting, that's something that we're finding is gaining a lot of traction, at least among our master gardeners who really specialize in compost and compost education. We found that worms are a really great entry point for young people into the world of composting. They provide great visuals. So we've done a number of programs around vermicomposting for youth in the Lake County area, but we're also going to be doing a vermicomposting presentation as part of our garden learning series in December, and that'll be the first time that we've offered that particular presentation. Next slide. We were also part of the USDA grant process and recipients of that. I think Dave mentioned. This actually took place, and Extension was a part of this before my time in Extension. So I think Merle-Ann was going to jump in and talk a little bit about this particular slide.
Sure. So with the horticulture program there, a very robust master gardener program, which, as Alex mentioned, he manages and leads, directs. We invited Extension. There was a 2-year grant. The agency I work for, by the USDA, granted, and it really had 3 different objectives. The first was like a demonstration, so farmland to garden demonstrations and soil studies. But objective 2 was where we had invited Extension to come in, and really nobody had looked at all of the different community gardens that were taking place. I know there was a short list, but we really did a lot of work looking at all the community gardens, and really with the idea in mind to do demonstrations for community gardens, for community gardeners, to also share information, and also hopefully develop that and market use, which is so critical to that whole circular nature of this. So we were really glad to partner with Extension, the Master Gardeners, and the programs there. So
Thanks, Merlin. All right, this is a fun topic to talk about because it just took place yesterday for us. This is something that we have been partnering with SWALCO on for a number of years now. Our annual compost giveaway. I know we're one of many compost giveaways that take place around the county during this week, but this has been such a great event for us, just in terms of community interaction. At our event yesterday, we had over 300 people come by the extension office, get free compost. That's obviously, what people are there for, but it's also a really great opportunity for our master gardener team to interact with, educate and talk to people about compost. So we've done this again for the last couple of years. But yesterday we had a team of masters that were present, and we had a lot of our compost specialists, our master gardeners, who really gravitate towards composting and compost education. And as people came in and loaded up their cars with this free compost that SWALCO is so generous to donate, it was also a really great opportunity to answer any questions that folks might have about compost, and also show folks around our demonstration site, which actually leads into the next slide, Merlin. So this, I would say, is kind of like our crown jewel as far as composting goes at the Extension office. This is a compost demonstration site that's kind of been in the works for the last couple of years, but it's really come in handy the last couple weeks, especially. I mentioned the compost giveaway. This was a perfect means for showing folks different ways and different systems that can be used for composting at home. You can kind of see in the picture we have a couple of different systems at our site, along with some really nice educational signage, a lot of different types of static bins, some of which can actually be purchased through SWALCO at a discounted rate. We also have a Knox bin, and just having the opportunity for folks that are coming and visiting our extension site for whatever reason, to take folks out and actually provide some hands-on education around composting and show them the different systems that might work for their particular setup. If they have space restraints, we can kind of, talk through what system might work best for them. Also, what are they looking to do with their compost, or what are they looking to do with their yard waste or food scraps? And we really have a system that works for pretty much anybody that comes through, including different vermicomposting systems that we can bring out and show folks if somebody lives in an apartment and they don't actually have access to a sizable outdoor area where they can have one of these outdoor systems. We can show folks how vermicomposting can be done and what those different systems look like.
Thanks so much, Alex. I love the new signage too that you have out there. Really, really, really lovely.
Yeah, it pops, and the Master Gardeners have done a fantastic job getting that space to where it is.
And there's also a compost ambassador program, which is really an extensive program, and a lot of work has gone in and done that Extension is involved in, and Alex himself as well. So just so many wonderful, good things happening there, and it's my pleasure. I think I'm doing the November presentation on native plants, so
You are as well, yep.
But Alex and I are usually there moderating chat for people and answering questions, and it's a really the Garden Learning Series has been a great place to share not only gardening but also composting knowledge and how to, and everybody in the chat is sharing information. That's the wonderful collaborative thing about that too. And we had to up the Zoom to 500 people to accommodate the registrations, I think like a year or two ago too. So I think people are really interested in learning more about gardening, composting, and it's exciting to see, and a pleasure to work with Alex. This is kind of exciting too, and we don't have actual documentation. I think that's photo on the side I may have taken back in 2016. I believe that's my photo. But the very first public drop-off, we believe, not documented, from Illinois. It is the largest and oldest, we believe, legal municipal community organics collection program. So that was, I think, the day we went out and set the sign there. I took that photo back in 2016. And this is out at the recycling center, which is another wonderful thing that the village of, we assist, but the village of Grayslake offers out with other reuse and recycling drop-offs there. I have a couple of other programs out there. We have an electronics drop-off for Lake County residents. So it's a very, very busy site when you're out there. And so that's what the food organics scrap program looked like back in 2016. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see what it looks like today, how that food scrap drop-off has grown. And we had a couple crack, we're going to replace it, but there will be 20 there. There were currently 20 bins. We're replacing 2 that had been out in the weather for a while. So it's really grown. It's highly utilized. I have people call from apartments that don't have access to this and, save up and make a trip once a month or grab their neighbors. And they're so happy to be able to keep that out of the landfill and bring it to a site, especially for those folks that don't have like a curbside program or the ability to do backyard composting. So next slide, please. And thank you to my husband for taking that photograph for me. This is another program. So on the right, we do coordinate, the agency I work for, again, we do coordinate a compost bin and rain barrel sale. And we typically sell them for about half price, as Alex had mentioned. But the village of Grayslake and a few other communities as well. And again, this is something, maybe a community doesn't have the infrastructure or the bandwidth to do a full-blown composting, but maybe this is something you can consider. offering a rebate or reimbursement program to your residents for backyard composting or vermicomposting. So the village of Grayslake, and I had the pleasure of being involved in this. I was only there really to support and maybe guide a little bit. There were two young students who really were instrumental in getting this launched. And they attended board meetings of the village and said they really wanted to support composting, backyard composting for residents. And so this program's been around along with, it's one of several other. And since this program, the village, and Dave, I know, has worked with this, offered other sustainability partnership programs for village residents. If you're purchasing native trees and plants, if you're doing other environmental sustainable initiatives in your home or yard. So it's really wonderful. This is a 50-50 partnership. So for example, if people came and purchased a compost bin for half cost, I think the last time we had a sale, they were $150 retail. You know, we were selling them for 70, I think. So then they take their invoice into the village hall and they give them another 50% off. So $150 compost bin they're getting for residents are getting for $35 each. Makes it affordable. And along with that comes education and how-to information as well. So something I think communities could consider offering as well. And again, check out the Village of Grayslake's others. I don't know if you want to say something real quick too, Dave, a mention of some of your other sustainability programs that you offer there.
I think you did mention we do offer cost sharing and reimbursement for electric lawnmowers, electric leaf blowers, tree planting, native plants planting, and then we have recognition programs for people that do meet certain criteria in multiple categories of sustainability, and then sustainable business recognition as well.
Great, thank you. Next slide, Seema. Another thing that we have several communities across Illinois taking part in this every year. Some of them are called pumpkin smashes, but composting pumpkins after Halloween. And there were two actually in Grayslake last year. So Grayslake again has been doing these for a number of years. We had one, there was one at the library, Grayslake Library. So again, all of these different organizations within the community coming together, working together, offering a variety of resources, events, programming surrounding all of this. Also the College of Lake County, our junior college in the northern Illinois region here, did one on the campus with their student environmental club. So we actually had two in Grayslake of many that were across the state. And why do we want to compost? I think Teresa had mentioned earlier, and also Michael and Felipe, the nutrients. So over 1 billion pounds of pumpkins are produced in the US each year. You might be surprised, but guess where 95% of them are grown? Right here in Illinois. So they are full, pumpkins are really full of nutrients that are great for the soil. They're 90% water. So when we're composting them, we're keeping all of the nutrition, all of those nutrients in that water here, and not throwing it away. So, and again, some of those other reasons for doing this. So some municipalities, some communities, some churches, some schools will host a compost give back along with their pumpkin composting. Fall is a great time, as we know, to apply compost. Some will also promote their curbside composting programs or backyard composting at the same time they're offering these as well. So it's a great opportunity to get some more education and throw out other resources. And these were just some stats that we had from the library and the high school program. They estimated for last year's, this past November, they estimated over 900 pumpkins came in to the one site. which was about 8,000 pounds of pumpkins collected for composting. So next slide. And unfortunately, we had invited Liberty Prairie and Farm to be here this evening. Unfortunately, they are unable to join us this evening. So, but this is actually Jenny and I's home CSA too. So I do work with them and know a little bit. So I'm pinch hitting for Patrick Auburn tonight, who was going to be there. But we'll have, contacts and websites for all of this at the end. So please reach out if you'd like to learn more about what they're doing there. And Liberty Prairie and the farm actually merged together this last year and a half, I think. They have been involved in ICAW for the last few years, and they're going to be having an event this Saturday. So their adventure is a farm festival and plant sale, and they incorporate composting demos and have some of the resources. And our larger ICAW team actually have toolkits that we provide to all of our adventure sites, filled with like how-to information, activities for kids, a curated book list. So if there's anyone here who wants to get involved in ICAW next year and host an adventure, we can brainstorm with you. We can supply you this wonderful toolkit full of resources to use at your event. And these were just a few photographs from last year's adventure. Next slide, please.
Glenn, just want to tell you that we're at 8:25.
I'm sorry?
We're at 8:25.
Oh, yes. 20. This is the Prairie Crossing Farm. It's a working organics farm, been in operation since 1993. And there's an opportunity there to either through the CSAs, through their farm share or other sales, to purchase vegetables, fruits, eggs, and other farm products produced without pesticides or herbicides. And they do incorporate compost, utilize compost, and compost on the farm site. Next slide, please. And lastly, they do summer farm camps, which look really fun, and I want to go too. They're very science-forward programs, focusing on the interactions between people, plants, and animals. So the students, and they have them geared for all different ages, but they have a number of really wonderful things. They're going to have a chance to care for sheep, goats, and chicken for the animals, farm animals. They're going to be able to spin wool and a number of things, but they're also building in composting education into the curriculum and program for these summer camps. So one of the items there, as you can see in green, learn about soil, organic matter, microorganisms, and how to make compost. So during the summer camps, the kids will have an opportunity to do that along with growing, planting, and other activities as well. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over. One other place where compost is happening is the College of Lake County in Grayslake, and I'm going to turn it over to Teresa.
Thank you, Marlene. I'm going to try to go through this quickly because I know we're over time, and the College of Lake County wasn't able to send somebody to present this themselves, but I think that this is a really important initiative to present because the students on campus are pushing for sustainability at their school. They have Café Willow, which is a cafeteria on their campus, and there are multiple campuses of College of Lake County, but this is specifically for the Grayslake campus. And they have this culinary program that's helping students become more effective at cooking food. And those students are trying to promote composting. There's composting programs from that cafe, as well as through this lab in the hospitality and culinary management program. They've done a pumpkin smash as well. They are focused on recycling. They are really trying to incorporate sustainability in every part of this. And that restaurant is student run. So all of this is student run programming. And I I know there's a lot of information here and we're short on time, so I don't want to read every detail, but I just want to make it known that you don't have to be a grown-up or, you know, what we think of as a grown-up to make change. You can be a student, you can be a high school student, you can be a junior high student to start implementing programs such as these that are happening at the College of Lake County. Next. Some other examples of their participation are their role in ICAW 2024. They had an event leading up to ICAW, Voices of Lake County Sustainability Fair, and they were tabling to try to promote education on composting. And then they also had the food composting education opportunity in their Café Willow. And then this year they have compost innovations at the College of Lake County Farm. They had that already on May 4th. And then there's another one on Friday, May 9th. So tomorrow from 10 to 2. So you can participate in that. They're also managing organics on a small farm. So I don't know how many people on the call are farmers, but there's a lot that goes into trying to grow organically or growing at all. And so trying to remove the weeds and plants and everything presents a lot of organic material that they're then composting. And so this organization and school are really working hard to make sure that composting and sustainability are a part of their program and mission. And I will turn it over to Jenny now for the book drawing. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Teresa. I know if you need to hop off and go do some momming, that's totally okay. And thanks so much for presenting and all that you do for ICAW. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Teresa.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you everyone for hanging in here just another extra minute or two. We are super excited that we have a copy of the beautiful book, Composting for Community by our speaker, Michael Martinez. It's a wonderful book. As a former preschool teacher, I can't get enough of it. It's just really engaging and beautiful. And to select the winner of our book raffle tonight, we are going to do it birthday style. So if you are on the call still and you have a birthday that is today or really close to the day today, you can unmute and say me, or you can raise your hand and we'll see that you are our winner. Does anyone have a May 8th birthday? Anyone? May 9th or 7th? What's our May 10th? What's our closest? Anyone have a May birthday at all beside me? And I already have the book. No. April birthdays?
How about April 27th?
Yes, that sounds great. We've got a winner. Super, thank you. That was Jill.
Yeah.
Okay, Jill. I'm gonna go ahead and send you a private message to get your address, and then we'll be able to send you out a copy of that. And if you don't get a message from me, then we can follow up with your registration email. So thank you, Jill, and congratulations. And I'll turn it back over to Merlan or Seema to take us out.
I think that was it.
When can we get our questions answered?
That's right now, Georgian. So we're at about 8:32. We were hoping to wrap up by 8:30. So we had a couple of questions in the chat. I think what we can do now is, Georgian, if you have a pressing question, we can take that first and maybe keep our presenters for another 5 minutes. But before I give it to you, I just wanted to thank our presenters today. I think this was an amazing presentation, and I want to thank you for your time and for your dedication in everything you do. So, Georgian, if you want to ask your question.
Yes, I was wondering, we put our food scraps in our yard waste, and I was wondering if we could put pumpkins in the yard waste.
Yes, you can. You can either take it to one of the pumpkin drop-offs, the pumpkin smashes, or it's recommended to break it up. You know, pumpkins are large, they take a little while to break down, but yes, you may.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice to see you, Merlin.
Nice to see you.
Okay. So, and I think the other questions were answered in the chat. So I'll just want to ask a question to the presenters. We heard so many benefits today about compost and composting. And one of the things that we were hoping to leave our audience with is maybe if you could share a tip or an idea that would help people here today in either starting composting in their community or expanding composting efforts. And this is for everyone. And I don't know if Dave, you wanted to start.
On how a community can start composting?
Yes, either start or expand composting. Yes.
Yeah, I guess find out if maybe do a small campaign, a little advertising first, and find out who's interested, and make sure that there's enough interest to work with your hauling company, or else, you know, if that's like curbside pickup. Otherwise, if there's a community garden, that would be a good place to start a compost pile. And it would be reused right there.
Felipe, did you have anything to share?
It's important to say that I've been working with environmental projects for many years, maybe 20, 25. And when you compost, it's a very quick change because when you plant a tree, it takes 20 years to get a bigger tree. When you work with awareness, it takes maybe 20 years to get a difference in your community. But when you choose to compost, in just one day, you get rid of your problem, and in some day, maybe 100 days, you get a very nice compost to use on your lawn or on a tree near your home. And it's very crazy because the problem very, very quickly. So I think it's a good way to start. It's to tell people that they can get rid of the problem in 12 hours.
Thank you, Felipe. I think I'm going to hand it back to Merlin to close us out.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Felipe. And thank you to Felipe, because it's 10:30 over in Sao Paulo. So we're so glad. I want to thank all the presenters tonight. I want to thank this wonderful group of folks that I get to work with on this Café team: Jenny, Seema, Teresa, and everybody who was involved with IFSCC. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Any of the questions we didn't get to in the chat, we'll email you or follow up with you